Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning again, everybody, and welcome to the workshop of the Board of County Commissioners. Today, July 29th, we will be going over budget presentations for the entire county. And we will be taking a break at 10 o'clock for about 10 minutes. We'll break for lunch at 11:45 a.m., and we will come back promptly at 1300 hours until we get completed. So with that, first one on our list is the Commissioner's budget. Travis, would you pull it up? And
sure.
The Budget Committee is all here. Robert Dobry, myself, Phaedra, and Travis. So any questions can be directed to us at that point in time.
Just real quick, Commissioner, just want to highlight the budget preparation guidelines. This year, we sent it out February 6th. We requested internal budget review committees countywide for department heads and elected offices. Our goal is to try to equal out our revenues and not have to go into reserves as much as possible. Again, we're kind of at the behest of what the property tax is going to do to us and revenues, and obviously some budgets might be decreased, increased, or we could switch them from department to department. And again, staffing levels may be decreased for 2025. We incorporated green sheet justification forms this year. These are designed to justify current positions, current programs, services, or other costs associated with county expenditures. And our goal is also to hopefully explore new sources of revenue for departments and elected offices. So we'll bring up the Commissioner's budget.
Okay, and again, that was sent out, like Travis said, in February. That went out countywide to, again, everybody, elected officials and all of the department heads. So with that, bring it up, Travis, and we'll go over it.
So the Commissioner's budget first is permanent salaries. And the increase in permanent salaries is based upon the increase in our
statute.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
It basically increases the salaries from the classification change.
And at every election, so every 2 years this changes with the election cycle of whoever is elected at that point in time. So that is an increase for salaries. That'll only be for 2 salaries this time. Next time, in 2 years, it'll be an increase of 7, I believe, 6, 7.
We can talk about fringe benefits, but that's pretty standard.
And the fringe is going to be it will be equal for everybody. There's a calculated amount in there at this point in time right now, but until we finish up with insurances, specifically health insurance, and we don't get those numbers until later in the year. This is a budgeted number that we put in there, and that percentage is 36%, Phaedra, correct? Roughly. So there again, that will move up or down one way or another, but it depends on what the increases come back as far as insurances. So that will be equal for everybody.
Operating expenses are decreasing $2,300. Montezuma Valley irrigation. Any questions about this one?
No.
And then Valentine Communications.
This is for expenditures to be published in the paper each month, which is required.
So that bill is a monthly bill rather than an annual? Good, okay.
So yeah, there's kind of the
That's the
justification details.
breakdown for the operating, so you have the publications for the monthly expenses, your MVI, and general office, and your miscellaneous newspaper renewals. Oh, sorry. So there's the breakdown.
So a big one is professional services. Region 9, we have $23,000. It's just kind of our standard dues.
They stayed the same. This is 24, will be 25, is the same amount, which is, I think, 22,000, if I remember right.
Yeah, it's 22 something. I
22.
rounded it up to
We
23.
Rounded to 23.
Okay.
The collective bargaining with the sheriff's office is, we reached out. La Plata County is about 6 months ahead of us. And theirs was about 200 to 220,000 is what they anticipated the budget for a negotiator.
So as you guys see this, as that goes forward and moves through the process, this is a, this is a big increase in our budget. But, you know, we looked at putting it in the attorney's budget, but in reality, we just decided to put it in our budget after conversations. So this will show a huge increase in our budget right here because it's never been in there. And again, hopefully it doesn't cost us that much, but from what La Plata County has been telling us, it may possibly cost that much.
Dues, travel, and training increased 5,000. NACO 550, CCI 16,000, Club 20 1,300, Public Lands 1950, and Colorado Water Congress is 2,300. Any questions on that, gentlemen?
No.
And that is pretty much it for the commissioner's budget.
All right, Ian, you are up.
Different view from down here. So really our budget for the 2025 year has stayed pretty much the same. Our permanent salaries stayed the same. We did put the 5% cost of living increase in like the other departments did. If you go down, all the other line items stayed the same. Our operating expenses stayed the same. That operating expenses line item we use for things such as our Westlaw subscription, which is our legal research and writing platform that allows us to do research. We also use that professional services line item for things such as when we had the Road 41 case back a couple years ago, we pulled out of that to finance the survey that we did down Road 41. It's a pretty general line item, but we just kind of use it for whatever professional services we need. If we need an expert witness, we'll pull out of that for that. Then we've got professional services. We also use that for expert witnesses if we do need them. And again, this number, we don't expend this every year. It really is case dependent and dependent on what we need year to year. So for this year, we haven't really pulled a whole lot out of the professional services line item because we haven't had a need to yet. Now, as the year moves along, if we get into more complex civil litigation, which I expect we will with the Leaf Properties case, we are going to expend some of the funding from that professional services line item. Operating expenses, that just goes to cover whatever it is we need in the office, printers, pens, paper, whatever we need day to day. So pretty straightforward there. Dues, training, and travel, we generally Since I've been here the last 9 years, we've made a habit of going to the county attorneys conference, and that usually happens once every summer. In recent years, they've made the winter county attorney conference virtual, and so we attend that virtually, but that cuts the costs. You know, certainly, the policy of our office has always been, if there is a training that would be beneficial, we try to get to it. Certainly, our assistant county attorney, you know, he's younger, and we both are younger, and so if there's a good training available, we try to get to that, and so that's what we use that for. Telephone covers the telephone expenses. Our assistant county attorney, that's been zeroed out because he's no longer a contract position. I think that pretty much sums it up. You know, one thing I told the budget committee, and I think it's just important for the board to understand, is there's always a possibility that something comes down the pipe that requires a specific level of expertise. And so we saw that a little bit with the Kinder Morgan litigation back 6 or 7 years ago. We did farm some of that out to a firm that specialized in those specific tax issues. Obviously, we handled as much as we could, and we always try to handle things internally, but there are certain things that you know, could require expertise that's beyond our office. We haven't had that in a number of years, but I think it's always important to understand that possibility is out there. And so we don't budget for that in our budget. Again, I do my very best to handle everything that we can handle internally, and I think that we've done a pretty good job over the last 9 years since I've been here of handling the vast majority of the litigation that comes through. But you know, I'll give you an example. Up in Kiowa County recently, they just denied a solar permit that came through for a big solar farm up there, and it's a pretty complex land use case. There's several entities that have sued, the tribes involved, and they did farm that out to a land use firm in Denver, just because of the breadth of the litigation. You know, again, I think again, we handle everything we can, and we'll continue to do that. I take a lot of pride in handling things in-house, but it's always important to understand that, you know, there could be something out there. You never know, and so I just don't want any confusion there. But we don't budget for that.
We do.
Yeah.
So if you guys look at that in our budget, we have that amount for that law firm also. That's also budgeted in ours for these special circumstances in the commissioner's budget.
And that line item in your guys' budget, it's fairly small this year, but that relates back to the Kinder Morgan litigation that continues to go on. The fractional interest owners in the Kinder Morgan McElmo Dome unit continue to take things up through the Court of Appeals, and I mean, I think we've got it pretty much cooked, but there's still a few things kind of percolating, and so that's what that's for. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good, thanks.
All right, up next will be the district attorney. This was our quickest and most favorite presentation that we had. You were on numbers, you were close, but this was the quickest and easiest and best. Good morning, Clarissa.
Good morning. I don't know if you gentlemen have any questions or whatnot, or if you want me to go through anything. We have rollover from gaps in employment. We lost over half of our staff, including the district attorney last year, so we had some rollover, and it's about a month runway, but I believe, looking at the numbers, even though we had a 30% decrease in one of our federal grants, which is somewhat significant, and then a 10% increase in our rent over at our diversion office, but I believe that this will be able to cover that along with small cost of living raises. I did forewarn everybody that I did speak to, we probably will be asking for more next year, assuming we don't continue to have more gaps in employment. But I think for this coming 2025, we'll be fine where we're sitting at. So that is why there's no increase.
This
At
one's
this time.
100% zeros across the board.
Yeah. So,
Or I can send it to you if I can get it open.
as much of a disaster as last year was, it benefited us financially, so there's that.
Question?
Fully staffed now or still looking?
Yes,
Okay.
fully staffed. Yeah, we have been as of March, so, and unless, someone has something significant in their life change, I foresee this staff staying with us for a while, so we've got a good group of people right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you,
Appreciate it.
gentlemen.
All right, administration's next.
You want to talk about this one?
Go ahead. Oh, that's not it. Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So with administration, permanent salaries, just an increase, cost of living increases. We're not asking for any additional personnel. Just again, cost of living increases. Fringe benefits, again, that correlates with the cost of living increase. Our operating expenses, we're anticipating it to decrease, but we do absorb a lot of other departments, copiers. We pay for, out of administration, we pay for the usage fees for copiers, GIS, admin. We also use funds to monitor CDL drivers in the county, and then pay for the water and coffee in the back. Which one is this one?
Professional services, it's if you need assistance with,
So this is just assistance with labor and tax compliance,
if it was needed.
if needed, yeah. It's no guarantee that we'll need it, but in the event we need it. Economic development is zeroed out. We don't have that functionality anymore within administration. Dues, travel, and training went up $590. We pay for the county pool vehicles out of administration. So we pay for the Suburban, Equinox, Impala, and the lease for 3 pool vehicles is going to be incorporated for replacement for next year.
And that may be 4, correct?
Possibly 4.
3 to 4 is what we've had the conversation. Depends on what she comes back with costs from enterprise, but that, we can discuss that when Shane gets up here also. But there's at least 3, which again would replace the Suburban, the Equinox, and the Impala at the minimum.
Any questions on ours, commissioners?
Nothing? Okay, all right, next. Don't see social services, so we'll go to veteran services, don't see them. We can, is James? Don't see James. Let's go to IT.
I can't get theirs to open. It's like at the death spin. Just do IT and then space.
Good morning,
department.
Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning.
There you go.
So on IT, it's always a little tricky sometimes with software because I don't get all the numbers in this early. So I tried to get as close as I could. Some of it's a bit of a guess, but most of it's pretty close. Because I rearranged a bunch of stuff, so hopefully I brought some of that down. You guys are aware that I do have some revenue, it just doesn't reflect on here. with social services via the state. We get about 85,000 back from them, so. And then the salaries, same thing, just COL, cost of living increased. And I think that's really, other than, we took everything mostly out of capital at this point because there was some confusion about what's capital and what's not, and the way my budget's always been, and we moved it into, I think it was 1381, right?
Yes.
Phaedra?
Yes.
Which is what everybody else uses for operating and equipment. So that's where all like the computers and stuff would go because they're well under $5,000. So we just shifted the numbers back around. And I did put a spreadsheet in there or a PDF in there if you want to see it. It's got all of the software, which is the biggest chunk of our budget is software maintenance.
So as far as the evaluation of all of the software countywide, I mean, last year we taxed you with making sure that the entire county was checked to see what kind of software that we could get rid of that we were not using.
Yep,
Are we
we've
Pretty
gotten rid
much-
of a few, yes.
pretty much where we need to be now and
Yeah,
don't have a
pretty
lot of
close.
extra software that we're paying
Yep.
for that nobody's using?
That is correct.
Okay.
I was looking for your attachment.
Attachment, we can't find.
What's
the
that?
attachment.
Your attachment, we don't see it attached.
It should be under maintenance contracts? No, it's not that one, it's the other one,
The one above it.
1380.
County, it's under countywide maintenance.
It's right there. See the PDF? And I broke it down, but I think on the, and I have it here actually too, but about half of the software maintenance contract is for the sheriff's office, the other half is for the county. And a big chunk of our software maintenance contract is actually Tyler. The Tyler software is between the assessor, treasurer, and clerk and recorder. It's like 108,000 a year just for that. So that's where a big chunk of it comes from. It's always been that way.
So with all of the changes that are happening, is that gonna be, do we have any idea what Tyler's doing? I mean,
Nobody
seriously,
has a
because
clue
there's
what
so
Tyler-
many changes going on.
So that's the one I see. I'm trying to open it and it won't let me. I just have like a
So,
death spin.
yeah, we had a big issue with Tyler this year getting through the change because obviously, like everybody else, they've had to kind of push for the ADA compliance stuff, right? So they had to make all kinds of changes. It caused all kinds of disruptions, and we had some major issues for about maybe 2 months getting Tyler straightened out correctly. And I think we got there mostly. I think it's mostly working now. I haven't
The last one
really
she
seen
sent me
any
was on
more.
the 10th. She sent me that one on the 15th, and that's the one you have.
It's a constant battle, trying to keep stuff working with all the changes and all the integrations and,
In a Region 9 meeting, every county that I spoke to is having the same difficulties.
you know.
You-
The difference is, like, unlike some counties, we're pretty fortunate that we kind of do half their job for them, because instead of waiting for them, we just kind of go in and figure things out, and then we call them and tell them how to fix it, and then they fix it. That's about it. I mean, you know, it's pretty close to the same. I got rid of some stuff, brought in different stuff, rearranging, trying to bring the cost of our job down for remote software, antivirus, that kind of stuff, so you'll see some things happening there. Other than that, any other questions?
I have none.
No.
Okay, thank
Thank you.
you. All right, we'll go back up to social services. I see them come into the room. Good morning.
Good morning.
And before we even start, I just want to emphasize, because this is such a large amount of our overall county budget, but Kelly will express it here in a minute, but we, the county, only put in, right now at this point in time, 0.8 of a mill, and that's what goes to social services out of our county pot. So when you look at this and look at the numbers for what it adds up to our entire budget, remember that that's all the county puts into this is 0.8 of a mill. Two special departments, one is social services, one is public health, and I'll show you what we put in for public health when they get up, but go ahead, Kelly.
So this is our overall. Do you want to go through each individual budget?
However you want to present it.
Yeah, I think it would be easier to go through each individual. This is the overall. We don't have our finalized audit yet, so that 909,000 may be different once we get the final audited numbers, but it's a good estimate for now. But then we can jump right in. This is a reduction from last year's budget, proposed budget, I should say, where we actually spend. We can jump into adult protection, which is the second page. This year we did receive a higher allocation, so you'll see that the salaries adult protection line item overall is higher. This is because we're actually putting all 3 staff into this budget. Historically, we've put other staff under admin because this allocations has never been able to cover the entirety of those staff. So it's nice that we got that bump. You can see the county share will be 57,000. Everything else is pretty generic. 3% cost of living has been added, and then an 8% increase in benefits. I'm just expecting that insurance will go up. This covers 3 FTE and client services for adult protection. The next one is our administration. This cost pool, we have a higher allocation this year. We do expect to spend all of this. This includes 24 FTE internally. No major changes here besides the 3% and 8% increase. The next one is child support services. This one's a more expensive program because it's 6634, so the state reimburses us 66%. This covers 3.1 FTE. Part of that is my salary, and then 3 full-time staff member salary. No crazy changes within this budget. Everything has stayed pretty level. Next, we have core services. We did receive a higher allocation this year for core services. This will cover 2.5 FTE. Will be charged out of this. One of them is out of 100% core, which means there's no cost that we have to hold. And then the remainder of this budget is for contracted services that are not covered by Medicaid. This means specialized psychological evaluations. It could include family time, equine therapy, those types of things that just aren't covered. I suspect that we will underspend this if we continue on the trend that we're at. So we might have a savings of $13,000 as far as county dollars within this particular line item. Next, we have the adult and aging program. This is A&D, home care, OAP, and this is 100%, so what comes in goes out. Next, we have our TANF allocation. Again, this covers 1 FTE, and then it covers client services. We probably spend 20% of the budget on client services. That could include rent or emergency needs based on what a house or a family requires. And then community contracts for prevention services that meet the pillars of TANF. This allocation will be spent in its entirety, and we will be responsible for that MO, the $138,000. Next, we have childcare. Childcare, we got a substantially higher allocation. We typically do not spend this entire allocation. The economic security manager, supervisors, and myself just finished a CCAP plan. So we did increase some of the private provider rates so that we can hopefully encourage families to get paid to provide care to their loved ones. It might increase our spending. I'm kind of projecting a 65% spend here, so we'll have a cost savings of $29,000, right around $30,000 as far as the county dollars. Because this one's typically so underspent. Although we might not, it depends on our child welfare year, which we're going to talk about, but this can also be used to help should we overexpend in any of those. And this covers 1.5 to 2 FTE. It just depends on how many hours are allocated to this. So we allocate based in real time. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. It kind of fluctuates throughout the year.
Non-allocated programs.
Next, we have our child welfare block. We did get a higher allocation here. This covers 11.5 FTE, part of my salary, so it would probably be 12 FTE. Overall client expenses, placements, those types of things. I do believe we will spend this entire allocation this year. We have some big cases happening that will require higher level placements, those types of things. So I'm fairly certain we'll spend this entire allocation. Next, we have our non-allocated. This includes incentives, it includes LEAP, 4D, retain money that's retained, which is our child support services. This is based on historic years, any TANF debt. These are all really projections, but should come out pretty even in the end. Next, we have our SNAP, which is 100%. We're projecting about $10 million in SNAP benefits over the next, over 12 months from January to December. And then last but not least is our other categories. So these are some funding streams that have come down that the department is the fiscal manager for. That includes PSSF, Rocky Mountain Health Plans, a United plan. We do not have the Family Housing Navigator this year. We will continue to have House Bill 1451, which is that integrated care management. These are all in and out, so it'll show that. We do have $151,000 in non-reimbursables, and we put this in there. These are expenses that the state ultimately will deny us. It's a high projection. We'd rather be safe than sorry. As you can see, in 2023, we had $141,000 that was rejected by the state and non-reimbursed. And that's the overall. Those all tie back into that main screen. So we have a projected budget of $19 million and some change.
Question?
No. Looks good, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Veterans Services, yes, he did walk in. Mr. Rick. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Before I begin my presentation, I'd like to say a thank you to Ms. Pedro for helping me out since I've been back. Is this on?
Turn it on.
Bingo.
Better?
Yes.
Oh, no, much better. Before I begin my presentation of the budget for Veteran Services for 2025, I'd like to send a quick thank you to Ms. Phaedra for helping me out since I've been back with all the changes. There's a thing with ClearGov, and so, but she's been here to help me through this process. And Travis, again, thank you. Your ratings and your likes may go up because you got Ms. Phaedra up there.
Oh, thanks.
Just note to remember. She smiles a lot. All right, so for 2025, when you look at comparing to 2024 for permanent salaries and benefits, There's a slight increase for the county VSO position. And the purpose of that would be to recruit and retrain highly qualified VSO. We want to try to stay competitive with what other counties are doing. Any questions on the VSO position, pay raise? And she'll be here, I got an email from her, she'll be here on Monday. She has a family emergency going on, and so she'll be here Monday. We'll bring her over to Lynn first, and then we'll probably head on, meet Phaedra, and then anybody that's here, and then go to IT. And we'll put her to work.
Very good.
And to the
Thank you.
department, so we can introduce her to you, Miss Ashley Garrett. All right, so a big change over 2024 will be the part-time position. I submitted the green sheet for Travis for justification. In a nutshell, the position for the part-timer would be so that we can have two VSOs on staff. They'll both be trained and qualified to submit claims and interact with the VA and state benefits. But most importantly, for continuity of services. If something were to happen, like the VSO, the principal has to take vacation, FMLA, who knows, sick call, a procedure, or just suddenly leaves, at least you have somebody here, part-time, that's fully trained, qualified to continue until the commissioners can hire someone new. And the funds for that are going to come out of what we used to receive from the state. So I'll back up a little bit. The state reimburses us every year 2 payments, a little over $12,000, so that's $24,000 total, a little over $24K. Instead of using those funds for outreach in the community, which is usually, we'll fund some events that highlight our office, we'll buy items to share with the community, flyers, bumper stickers, cups, shirts. Instead of doing that, all those funds are going to get rolled into the part-time position. So that's how that'll get funded. Any questions on the part-time position?
No.
All right. The fringe benefits, like myself, Miss Ashley is a military retiree. She does not plan at this point on using the health care that the county provides. She'll use the military retirement, known as TRICARE, for her health care services. So the fringe benefits are minimal. I guess, Phaedra, those are ones that
Just taxes,
taxes.
your
Okay.
life insurance.
Yeah, I think there's like a life insurance or something. Okay. Any questions on the fringe? And as you know, the part-timer is not eligible for the fringe benefits. As far as operating expenses, it pretty much stayed the same. There's only, I think, like a $30 savings. Not much change there. You'll see the public outreach. That's the drastic reduction. So instead of the $11,000 that was budgeted in 2024, it's down to $550. And then, like I said, the $24,000 from the outreach is going to go into the part-timer. Any questions about public outreach? Telephone services, I'm not using the cell phone, but the incoming VSO will likely use that. That usually what happens is we'll get a phone call on the weekend about a death of a veteran, a homeless veteran, and then that's usually how the usage of the cell phone will be utilized. Postage, we utilize admins, funding for postage, and dues, training, and travel. There's a reduction of a little under $1,000, and that's basically by using online training. Also, the new VSOs the new VSO that's coming in, and once, if approved, and she hires a part-timer, the state of Colorado Division of Veteran Affairs pays for the basic course. So I'll submit an invoice to the state, and they'll pay for the training for the new employee. So we save money there. And if you do 2 employees, that'll be like $1,000 savings right there. So overall, with that said, if you do not include the reimbursements of the little over $24,000 that we get from the state of Colorado, our budget was only a little over $76,000 last year. by adding the new employee and using the funds from the outreach or the reimbursements, we're only going up by $4,476. So I'm hoping that you'll approve the budget, and you get a twofer for only $4,000, a little over 4,476. Are there any questions about the overall budget or any line item? All right, and if, I don't know, Phaedra, if you can pull that up, if you're able to pull this spreadsheet up.
This
If not, I
one.
can verbalize it.
Do you have
I
it?
don't have that.
It's okay.
We don't have that one.
So I put this spreadsheet in the commissioner's in baskets a few weeks ago, and what the spreadsheet shows is it's the VA's numbers of veterans in the county that are receiving benefits from 1996 through year 2023. Back in 1996, there was just under 2,000 veterans in the county. Those 2,000 veterans were receiving 1.7 million in income spread out over just under 2,000 people. So just under 2 million. In 2023,
He said it was sending it to you.
we are slightly over 2,000 veterans, not by much, and those 2,000 veterans and survivors are receiving just under $30 million a year in benefits. So from 1996, 1.7, 2023, 29 million a year. I won't bore you with the details, but if you look at this spreadsheet from 2013, when I came on board, you'll steadily see how those numbers just jump. Oh, there it is, right there. You'll see how those numbers just start jumping up after the numbers of claims submitted and the VA decisions. They go up exponentially. So we were averaging about I don't know, if you do an average, maybe 2.7 million with over 2,000 veterans, like 2,800. And then starting in 2013, you'll see how it shoots up. 12 million, 13, 15, 16, 17, 20, and we're at 29 million. So for that amount of income, I mean, I think it's worth having a full-timer and a part-timer. So, but I thank you for your time this morning. It's good to see all my compadres back here, and it's Ms. Phaedra up there. Any questions?
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
We appreciate everything you guys do, and Ms. Phaedra.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. All right, I'm going to get a two for now because James Dietrich's coming up, and we're going to take care of Noxious Weeds and Natural Resources.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay, so we'll start with the Natural Resources Department. Generally, everything within Natural Resources is going to stay the same as it was last
Hey,
year.
James, hold on one second. We started with Noxious Weeds, but I can switch it.
Oh,
Give me
okay.
one
sorry
second.
about that. Well, I can-
Go ahead, sir.
Okay. Okay, generally speaking, everything's pretty much the same within the Natural Resources Department. The significant increase has really been with the permanent salaries, and that's just associated with the cost of living increases primarily. Everything else is really pretty much in line with what we've had over the last few years. Operating expenses will cover things, along the lines of like, I use a couple of computer programs that I have to pay an annual fee for, some things like that. Telephone, that's kind of the standard. I just use my personal phone. Miscellaneous, keep a little bit on hand just in case we have to rent a room or things like that. Or maybe we in the past we've had to hire somebody to come in and provide a little bit of expert knowledge for certain things. So anyway, the overall budget, where we've lost from that budget is the IHOP grant and the OREC grant. And both of those will be zeroed out, and both of those were kind of special projects for Natural Resources anyway. So our Natural Resources budget is coming in $105,935, and I think overall it's down this year. Any questions on Natural Resources?
No.
Okay. All right, I'll move on to Noxious Weed Department. So the main thing with the Noxious Weed Department is we've gone from 4 employees down to just 1. And so permanent salaries has decreased significantly. The other thing is the grant salaries has decreased significantly because we had 2 individuals that were being paid off of grants. The cost share would be the last remaining grant program that we'll remain engaged in, and that is that 1-to-1 match. So this year we're allocating $10,000, and that would be that match that would come in from the state on that. As far as the operating expenses, we've included $3,000. Basically, we've got to get our guy trained up, so we're going to have to send him to some training. And then we've also got the ATV and the sprayer, a few minor tools that we'll have to continue to keep up. Education, we've included $3,000 for education, and in my mind, this is primarily public education. We want Russell to have enough budget to be able to go out and work with the public and provide some educational pamphlets, things like that. Fuel, since Russell will be out kind of doing more contact with people, we've upped the fuel to $2,500. The telephone works about the same as it does for Natural Resources. He just uses his personal phone. Insurance and bonds, that's zeroed out because we're not going to be going out and doing any of the work for the free Adify program. The enforcement is 0 at this point too. So repairs and maintenance primarily are focused on the truck. The trucks are getting a little bit older. Certainly probably going to have a few things go wrong with that. So I tried to include a little bit that we can contribute towards keeping that vehicle running. Dues, meeting, and travel, and again, I'd like Russell to go out and take some trainings and attend a few of the educational opportunities that he can get into. And then we have $2,000 set aside for chemicals. Since we'll be primarily focused on spraying just our properties, that should be sufficient for that. Capital outlay is zeroed out. The CDA Mancus River project, that was a Fratify project, that is zeroed out. And the CDA Russian olive expenses, we will not be doing that next year, so that will be zeroed out also. So that gives us a budget of $83,800 for the Noxious Weed Department. Do we have any additional questions?
I do not. Gentlemen?
No, not at this time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you,
Very
gentlemen.
good. Sheriff? This will actually go through all of them, just like social services. We'll have LEA, we'll have sheriff, and we'll have the jail.
Where do you want to get? There's 3 separate budgets.
We're starting
We're
with
on the sheriff's side.
the sheriff's side.
Sheriff's side.
The sheriff's budget? Okay. The permanent salaries, as you see from the approved position and salary pay grade that we did that was approved back last year. That's a 2% increase. I showed 1.4 million in clear.gov. It looks like it's been reduced to 86,000. I'm not sure why, but there it is. Everything else is pretty much the same. However, it was a question about fringe benefits, what that cost would be. So I think we were just guessing at 441,755, but I don't know what that. It could be less than that.
I think the percentage that Phaedra gave
Well, we
out to
didn't have a
everybody,
percentage. We have an amount for the
We have.
insurance so far, but I don't think the rep will be here till October
Yeah.
with numbers. So yeah, we're
Yeah, I
kind
know.
of just,
I know.
Yeah.
This is all up in the air. for
So
sure.
again, the fringe for everybody is a calculation of an estimate, but here again, we don't know what that's gonna be. None of us do. I hope it's to the 8 to 13%, but I think it's going to be more.
Yeah. I've asked for a few increases in some of those line items, most not. Those green sheets were submitted. It's pretty much what I have on the sheriff's budget. Next one.
Sheriff, just real quick on your FTEs
Yes.
and your programs, are you going to try to get Dolores to contribute to the cost? Because right now the county's picking up the full cost for municipal services.
Well, there's never been anybody under a contract, so we're still discussing that. Thing is that what I need to know is what's going to happen. If there does that just reduce what's in there and everything stays the same in the sheriff's budget? Is that what happens or what? I don't know. I never got that. I never understood. So.
Okay, I'm kind of confused. What's your question?
The question about the amount that the Dolores contract would bring in, does that just reduce in those line items? So it's just added into that. Is that correct?
Well, I guess it goes into the general fund, and then it gets allocated to your budget. But if it doesn't go on, if we don't get the contract, right now the county is supplementing the full cost of those services to Dolores. Does that make sense?
Well, the services to Dolores are no different than anywhere else.
No, I think so they are different. So
How are they
Cortez
different?
provides their own law enforcement, Mancos provides their own law enforcement. And right now, we are supplementing through our budget, the town of Dolores.
Well,
So
that's
just like in the past,
okay.
the contracts were written, they denied it last year. And then what is your conversation as far as getting that back in?
Well, you denied it last year. They didn't deny it. You denied it last year.
That is incorrect.
No.
Look at the video on 11/27/23.
Yeah, I presented it to the commissioners last year.
So, anyway, we denied it the way it was presented, absolutely, because the amount wasn't correct.
Well, it was 250,000. That's 30,000 more than what it was. Yes.
The contract. So the question is, I think what Travis is asking, are you going to get that contract or not? Because that's just, we are supplementing the town of Dolores for those 2 FTEs.
Well, there's no 2 FTEs assigned there, so I don't know how that's true.
But there are.
No, there isn't.
Okay.
Not at all.
The
Okay.
question is, are you or are you not? Simply yes or no.
Well, that's going to be, that budget or that contract can be presented again,
Okay.
okay?
Is that what you were asking?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What's the next one?
Let's go to the jail side, Sheriff.
For the detention center, again, going by the approved position and salary for 2025, up by 2%, 1.7 million. That's 33 FTEs. There was a request for a $3,000 increase in overtime because of the reduced FTEs and the amount of overtime that we're having to spend. Food increase, 5,000 to 185,000. Fuel was asked to be increased, 3,000. As far as professional services, which also includes the Southern Health Partners annual contract, plus the $10,900 for the TK84 full body scanner, since the warranty after 5 years is gone. That's what it costs annually for those inspections and any repairs of that equipment. So we were asking $350,556 in that line item. Everything else was pretty much the same except for an increase in, a requested increase in uniform allowance. We have the LEA now. Well, we still have questions about detention.
No, we can go to the LA.
LEA.
For LEA, this year, you'd moved 12 deputies into the permanent salaries in LEA. With that 2% increase, I was asking for $799,000. Looks like ClearGov shows $794 for 901. That's a 2% increase. Fringe benefits is still a question. It was $216,000, now it's up to $220, who knows? And the dispatch costs of $340,000, that's a guess. I don't know what that's gonna be. It could be less than that. And then the vehicle lease is coming out of LEA. I just left it the same, $193,500. I'm not sure what that is.
Actually, did they discuss dispatch fees at your last meeting? Weren't they, were they gonna?
They didn't discuss it
discuss
yet.
this or not yet?
So now offset some of those costs, some of the for dispatch fees, some of those others may have to be reduced or partially taken out of the sheriff's budget.
I don't think it'll be 340 because I think we were only at 190 last year. Is that correct?
290.
290.
Or, I'm sorry, 290
Yeah, I don't know.
total.
Okay,
That's it?
that's it. Thank you.
All right. Road and Bridge.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good work.
Good morning.
Okay, so lead off with the labor proposed this year. We did include a 3% cost of living. So we take permanent salaries and benefits, and then there's 4 part-time positions. Comes to 2.7 million, some change. And looking down the line, we've got some decreases from some previous fuel. We're thinking we can drop our fuel budget a little bit. We do have to increase for some cutting edges on some materials purchased for the blades. These are the special cutting edges we buy. We usually buy them every 4 or 5 years in bulk shipments. So kind of a big number here, but then hopefully you won't see it again for the next 4 or 5 years. A decrease for special roads was the fuel, like I mentioned, tires, a little bit of increase for inflation. Building repairs, we decreased the signs and the painting a little bit there, increased a little bit for signs and painting, Then moving on down the line, postage increased some, it went up. Decreased for public utilities, it went down 8,000. Special road projects, we'd had to take some out of that for the other things above it to make that work. And it ends up being budget proposal of 6.173960 out of projected revenues of 5.831,928.31. Questions?
I have none.
Really?
No. Like I said, it's not the first time I've seen this.
No, it isn't, so,
Is this, on your tires, is that enough for tires?
probably not,
Okay.
to be honest with you. The way tires are going,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's a good point, Kent. I doubt it, but that's what we got for today. So.
Okay.
Questions?
That's it.
Good, okay, thanks.
Thanks,
Thank
Rob.
you. Fleet, vehicle maintenance.
Ours also should be pretty straightforward. The 3% COLA raise on all the benefits and salaries. And basically to cover that raise, we took a little bit out of the operating and a little bit out of small tools. That seems to have a little bit of leeway there, so everything stayed the same last year. No increase, no decrease.
Questions?
No, I mean, you mentioned small tools, but is that Snap-on or is that Harbor Freight?
It's usually CarQuest gear wrench.
Okay.
And we really don't, it's a lot of, with every vehicle that comes around, we gotta have some specialty adapter to fit, to test
Yeah.
the cooling system or things like that. It's nothing real large there, but, we have put in things like, tire machines and things. I mean, all that stuff wears out. We do a bunch of tires over there. It gives a little bit of leeway for the tire machine breaking or repairs on that kind of stuff because we use them pretty hard.
Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
Good.
Appreciate it.
I do not see planning in here, so we'll go to public health. And again, before we start with public health, like I said, for social services, we don't have a meal for public health, but we just do have an allocation per capita. And right now, that allocation is
$1.50.
$1.50, which I think we are more than just one county, that Bobby and I have been having a conversation back and forth. But, so basically what the county contributes right now, and that was to the last census that's done every 10 years. The census, obviously there are some that are different, but the census that we have is 26,200, which equates to $39,300, correct?
39.7.
Okay, all right, 39.7. So again, that's all, when we look at the public health budget, is all that we contribute from the county is 39.7, so under $40,000 a year.
Correct.
With that, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to just kind of preface with the fact that this is great that we're planning this far ahead, but for our budget in public health, we write grants throughout the year. So right now, as you look at our budget and what we're presenting for the proposal for 25, there is a shortfall. That shortfall will be covered by the grants that we are in the process of writing. We just wrote a LOI last week, a letter of intent to a foundation. Once we hear back from that, then if we are approved with that letter, then I'll bring it to you all for the grant application process to ask for funding for that particular program. And then we have another one we're going to apply for through CDPHE as well for our work. So again, it's too early in the year for us to know exactly where we're going to land with those. But anyway, so I'm going to step aside and have Laurel walk through this, but I'll be right here and we can answer questions. Okay?
Good morning. So I don't know if we want to really need to go line by line. Pretty much everything is the same. As last year, everything that's on here in the proposed budget is a guarantee as far as revenue goes. We did get a slight increase on our OPP, which is basically our core funding. So we're waiting on some more word for that. In immunization core services, I'm able to move some of the tuberculosis funding out of that because they are funding us separately for that. So that'll be added in later. Our WIC budget did give us an increase, so that was good. And all of these programs are covering all of the salaries, all of the fringe, as well as all but one or two maybe are covering an indirect cost, which goes back into the general public health budget. So basically, all of our expenses up here are reflective of what is available in the program funding. So if, for instance, our CNC program, it's cut. So basically what that's covering is somebody's salary, the indirect, and then a lot less operating. So we did cut our operating and our travel and to be reflective of what we're getting. So I don't know if you guys have any particular questions about any of these line items.
I do.
Okay.
In your increases in WIC and OPP, do you know what the percentage are of those increases?
The WIC one is very small,
Okay.
but it was enough to cover. Basically, they gave us a budget and said, this is what you get, present a budget, and we said, this is what we need if you want us to keep people at these hours and providing the work. And they gave us, I want to say probably, I would say like a 3% increase.
Okay.
And that's about it. And then the core funding, it's significant. It's up to $75,000 of a $257,000 grant or support grant. So it's an additional $75,000 to do work.
And then I know this might be for you or for Bobby. I was at a conference and Public Health announced an increase of 500 employees. And I think it mostly went to air quality. Are you guys going to see any of that? Okay.
No, but they do come down here often, and we do work with them. We have a contract with them.
That's
So.
that ARS, the deal that's on the roof.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
purple,
It's like
purple air?
Yeah.
No, it's not purple.
Not
It's
purple
not.
air?
It's not purple.
It's
Yeah.
a,
Air quality
it's
safety.
air resource specialists.
Yeah.
ARS.
Yeah, and in fact, they were doing something over at the library, and they needed our roof, where we already have a filter system on there and a whole system, so we let them on there. So my hunch is that's the group that they hired, because they're going around doing additional monitoring, different PM2s, PM3s. So.
And then we put monthly, I post those reports, the air quality reports, and all those reports are reflective of the equipment that's on the roof.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do we have any other sampling in the county, or is it just in Cortez?
We used to have purple air.
Yeah.
We did. In different places around in the city and out in the county. Some people even had it at their homes. We did not.
We purchased it for them.
Yeah, that was a specific grant opportunity, money opportunity under emergency preparedness. Actually, when Karen Dixon was still with us, is when we instituted Purple Air. Money phased out, Purple Air monitoring phased out. That is not what we have anymore. We still have the monitoring device that's on the roof through the state. And then ARS we're like the middleman. They're actually the ones who check the monitoring, report it to the state, report it to us, and then they also monitor if there's a problem or a glitch with the system. They'll let us know, and they'll talk us through it best they can if we need to change something with the filters or make adjustments on the machinery. But they can see if we've done it correctly and it's working, or if we have an issue, and then they will come into our office and go up on the roof and work on it if they need to. So.
This goes back to some other claims that were made the other day about uranium claims, because we're downwind. We've always been downwinders. Plus, we get everything from the LA basin and the Phoenix area. And that's where prevailing winds are from. I just didn't know if we're monitoring enough, not too much, or what.
We don't necessarily, we don't have any FTE that's dedicated to air
Right.
monitoring. And again, if funding was provided and that was something that our community wanted us to do, we could certainly look at that, but that we have not been approached by the state as far as increasing our capacity here, no. So
Okay.
those 500 employees, I have a feeling, has to do with the expansion of the additional monitoring that they wanted. Like what Laurel was saying, they ended up putting it on our roof. But it's not requiring more of us.
Okay.
Not yet, anyway, so.
You know, one thing I want to highlight, and kudos to you guys, you know, you can see a lot of these numbers did go down because they do a very good job of staying within their budgeted. Sometimes they get grants for people, FTEs, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they're here for a year or 2 years, and then they go away, which is something that, as far as the employee, doesn't like to hear, but that's the reality of it. And as long as the program is there, it works and functions. And I think that's why, you know, you look at their budget and there are a lot of arrows that are going down. And again, is all we provide is $1.50 per person. So
Right.
under $40,000, it's a pretty minimal cost for Montezuma County. So
Thank you.
that's all I have.
Okay, thanks.
Gentlemen, anything? Okay, all right, thank you. Transportation, yep, transportation.
And senior services.
And senior services, I get 2 for 1 again.
Morning.
Morning.
Did that work? Yeah. Okay, so start with transportation. So transportation changed a little bit. The revenues went down a little bit because we don't have the COVID money. We had COVID money that we still had until, gosh, the end or June of this year. So that goes down a little bit, but it's not enough to really hurt us. And then, let's see. Yeah, our grants are down a little bit. So permanent salaries for transit, everybody else did the 5% for everybody except for my assistant in transportation. I raised hers a little bit because she does an amazing job, and I don't think I could do transportation without her. Or I could, but it'd be very hard. So fringe benefits, same thing. It changes because of the salaries. Operating expenses, I brought down a little bit because we took our phone expense for transportation that we, not the phone like the reimbursement, the phones for the buses, basically for our employees. So that went down a little bit. Let's see. Oh, this one went weird. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. My transit is farther down, but it's the same concept. I mean, it's still, there's no overtime. We don't ever do overtime. The fringe benefits, same thing, that went up a little bit. Our operating expenses, went up a little bit because of the iPads we got that are going to be a little more a month. Well, kind of a lot more a month. But we're trying to get that done versus the phones, so they can use that for everything, including getting information from our clients. Fuel stayed the same. We didn't use it all last year, so I figured we'd just leave it alone. I know it's going to, fluctuate again this year. I don't want to lose anything out of that. And then the telephone, like I said, is the reimbursement, and also for the telephones for the drivers. Maintenance and repairs, we don't worry about. It goes into vehicle expenses, and that went down a little bit. Same thing, we did not use all of it last year, so I don't want to keep asking for something we're not going to use. Dues, training, and travel did go up a little bit by $500 because there are quite a few trainings that transit has to go through. I mean, I can do a lot of those trainings, but I have to still have the information for it. So that went up a little bit. And then the next two, yeah, fleet costs. So all of the three ones that are after that are all into vehicle costs. Capital outlay is down. I don't think we're going to have to order another vehicle for this year. We've got, our vehicles are pretty well new, so all of them are in good condition, except for the one that got crunched. So, any questions on transportation? Okay.
None.
And senior services is going to be about the same. You know, the grants, actually senior services went up a little bit for their grants because we did get a little bit more for senior services. And then same with part-time salaries. We went up the 5%. Fringe benefits are contingent on what they end up being. And operating expenses, like I said, did go down on that one because we took the phone benefit out of there, or put it in there. Wait a minute. No, took it out of there. I'm sorry. Food is kind of staying the same. We are shopping around for our food, and instead of paying high prices at one place, we're trying to get different places, different things at different places to kind of save money there. No fuel, no commodities, telephone, the 960 is in there. Workman's comp is 0. Repairs and maintenance, I put $1,000 in there. I don't know if it's going to happen, but there was one time that we did have a bill for maintenance repairs, and I just wanted to make sure there was a little bit in there for that. There's no vehicle expenses. Dues, training, and travel. I did put that down a little because there's not as much travel in that. There's the classes are pretty close, so, and we're going to get those done, and they're not that expensive. Fleet costs, we don't have any. So the senior citizens, the Dolores Senior Center, we pay $6,480 for the rental of that facility, and then the same for Minkus, so that didn't change. Let's see, home chore contract, we do get reimbursed for that through AAA. The Nail It Down program, we don't have anymore. The caregiver program, same thing. We get reimbursed from that from AAA. The next two we don't have, and I think that's all of Senior Center. Any questions on that?
Any new news on AAA? I guess, Commissioner, is there anything else? I know you guys were having a meeting, or maybe you have or haven't. I don't know yet. But
we just did the interviews for a new director.
So we're still
last week.
Kind of ongoing.
To hire somebody for Thursday to make the decision.
Yeah, and they've got the budgets, I think, and they're just waiting, or they're going to send them down to us as soon as they know for sure what's going on. So.
Okay. There's lots going on.
Oh, I know. I know that. But, so, any other questions?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Thank you. Clerk's office. I'll get all three of them next.
So I'm probably the only one in the county that's needs ClearGov for Dummies, because I can't get that program to work. I apologize. So basically on our budget, the permanent salaries I did put in with the 5% cost of living, and I put in the spreadsheet for that for you to overview. On our overtime, it's the same at $3,600. The fringe benefits, I was waiting for Phaedra to let us know on that. On our tech fund, it probably needs to be updated to our current balance. I think there's about $23,000 in there. We deposit somewhere around $2,000 a year into that. So that, we still have $40,000 of that tagged for the ERTB program, or digitization program, which hasn't been completed yet. On the operating expenses, I tried to put in 28,000 as a total operating. Most of that has to do with our postcards that we get for motor vehicle. I used to pay about $1,000 a month for those to be mailed out, and now it's up to almost $2,000 a month just for that. So that's part of our operating expense. Let's see. On my postage, postage went up, so I increased that up to $20,000. We do still have one maintenance contract that I didn't get to put in there. It's for one of our copiers, but I think that copier is about to die on us, so we're thinking of purchasing a new one. And then I don't have a contract with it, it's just ours. Dues, travel, and training, I left it the same. The ERTB expense is the grant funds for the digitization project. The balance on it is $209,549.75. I've got numerous emails into them trying to find out when it's going to be completed. The last one I sent to them, I told them that if we didn't get it completed, I was going to see about how to get that money returned to the state because they're not finishing the project. So hopefully we can either get rid of it or get it completed one way or the other. I think this is 4 years. Is it 4 years? I think we've been working on this project 4 years now. And that also is with Tyler Tech. That's where my holdup is, with Tyler Tech. That's on the clerk's budget. Do you have any questions on that? Sorry, I went through that really quick. I'm going to have Phaedra help me with ClearGov.
We'll fix it.
Yeah. And then on the elections, I had the same issues. Last year, this year, we've got 4 elections. I budgeted $82,000 for the entire year. My first election that I thought would be about $20,000 was $52,000, almost $53,000 for the presidential primary. So it's going to be not so great this year, but next year I only have 1 election. So I lowered that down to about $60,000. And that I picked $60,000 because of the original 52 for the presidential primary. There's been some statute things that we're required to do, and that's added about $12,000 per election to my election budgets that just came into this year. My VSPC judges in the past have been, I pay them at least minimum wage, but it's running me about $12,000 for my VSPC judges and my tabulation judges. We do expect reimbursement for these from the state for next year. Will it be 1 election? It'll be a coordinated election, but I can't foresee any kind of recalls or recounts that we might have, or any special elections. For my professional services, that is my election judges. Like I said, it's been around $12,000 per election, so I lowered it down to $15,000 just in case I did happen to have another election. On the postage, I put it to $12,000 is where I wanted it. I think that should cover the election and any other election mail that we have to send out. We're required to send out, like any time that we have undeliverable ballots and stuff, we're required to send out a letter to those people. So, but we also have an increase in postage. So, and all that goes out first class. The maintenance contract was absorbed into the lease agreement, so we no longer have that. That's a 0 amount. The computer software is for our Agilus Duo, and that's $10,000 a year. And then the last thing I had was the capital outlay, which is the Dominion lease, and next year it'll be $32,018.92. So I also wanted to make notes that in the 2024 election reimbursements, like I said, the presidential primary was 52,000, and the municipal election, which I had planned for at 10,000, was actually at 14,000. But all of these elections have been reimbursed, which doesn't show on my ballot, on my balance there. We should get some sort of reimbursement for the recount, and then we'll get a 45% reimbursement for the general, rather than a per voter reimbursement in the past. Okay. Any questions?
Okay.
It's generally a decrease for elections.
Right.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kim. Treasurer Ellen.
Okay, so I just did the 5% on the salaries for the chief deputy and the 3 deputies I have, but I also increased my deputy 3 to 35 hours. She's at 30 now, so that I would like to request that. We are going under a lot of change with, they've revamped the whole treasurer's deed process, and a lot of new, we just have a lot of new stuff that we're dealing with, so it really is fairly easy to justify having her because it frees me up to be able to think about what we have to do next. So that's the case for her. And fringe, I just guessed when we go through the operating, you want me to break that down, or I guess that's up.
Yeah, let's look at it. We'll
Okay.
look at the attachments.
So the journal, we have to record that 6-month report or advertise it twice a year. That's now up to like $600 a time. Drug testing, I just put that in case I had to have somebody else hired on, which I'm not planning for, but I left it in there. Office supplies, mostly that's paper and printer cartridges, I would say, and files. We go through a lot of files. Checks, the 1099s that we have to send out to all the lien holders. The software lease is actually a bridge pay thing, which will be coming to an end in '24, but I'm not sure what the new one's going to be yet. I'll be hearing about that soon, so I don't know what the cost of that will be. Mobile home advertising, that's actually down a little because we don't have as many to advertise, but it's also up because the advertising cost is going up, so the real and mineral has gone up there. Capital purchases, if I need one more printer, I got 2 last year, so I put that in there. And what else? Postage. Oh yeah, I did increase that. We really just mail out 2 times, all the tax bills and then the delinquent notices. And then the travel, let's see, local travel, $550, that's just, we don't have a vehicle, but what we do around here. Dues, we have dues to pay every year. And conference travel, if we go, sometimes we go virtual, but it would be good to attend at least one of those conferences that we have. And public trustee, I don't think changed at all. Shouldn't have. I think I changed that one. Oh, it did go up just a little. What did I increase? Oh, just the travel, or the dues, because the dues did go up. So, any questions? Can't see you with those on.
Nope.
Okay.
Doesn't sound like it. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right. Assessor, Leslie, will you get this one done, and then we'll take our 10-minute break.
So as far as the salaries, I just increased by the 5% cost of living fringe benefits. I think I did mine the the 13% is what I increased mine by. I don't know, just the guesstimation. Operating expenses stayed the same. Professional services stayed the same. That's all of my outsourced total assessments, my commercial appraiser, all of the Kinder Morgan expenses, everything I have that I have to pay out. Postage this year went up. It's a reval year, so I added in $15,000 for my postage to send out the valuation notices to everyone in the county. My maintenance contracts stayed the same. That's for my Xerox machine and my Apex software. That's the drawing software that the appraisers use to draw the buildings. I have a $4,000 miscellaneous expense. That's just there kind of as a buffer if my expenses on my postage goes up anymore. I don't know. There wasn't really a way to get a quote from them to see what my, because we send it off to a printing company and they weren't able to give me a quote this early in the game. Dues, travels, and training stayed the same. That includes my Assessors Association dues, training, and conferences, my assessor conferences, and then training for the 2 appraisers. I did increase my fuel costs for our 2 vehicles and left the vehicle maintenance the same, so that budget went up, I think, by $2,000. Capital fund went down. I believe it was $35,000 last year. I decreased it to $15,000 this year just to finish up buying the map cabinets, and then that'll be it. I won't need any more capital fund for that. So total proposed is $600,754.
Question?
No.
Commissioner?
Right now.
Okay.
Pretty simple.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. Travis, you can stop it. We'll take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we are back, so we are going to start with Miss Emily, CSU.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for giving me a break to catch my breath after running up the stairs.
I saw that. You looked a little faint, like you were going to pass out.
I know, and then
so
you're like 10-minute break, so anyway.
Now
here I
you're good
am.
to go.
Okay, good to go. Well, as we discussed previously, kept things pretty simple, but we should just go line by line. So we don't have any permanent salaries, but in our part-time salary, I requested a 4% increase on that just for trying to keep the personnel that we have. And so that's all the county staff, which is our admin assistant, which is 29 hours a week. And then we have a program assistant that is 20 hours a week. So that's that almost $2,000 requested increase on part-time salary. And then for fringe benefits, then we have a requested increase then to obviously match the fringe associated with that increase. And then a lot of these are just staying the same. So just keeping our operating expenses the same, our fuel remaining the same, professional services. So this is a portion of the salary that goes towards the director position, my position, and our 4-H agent position. And so this is through CSU has a formula for increases, so their requested increase in that contribution towards our salaries, that is obviously much more than the 32,000-ish in that budget item between the two of us. So that's a requested increase of about 1,500 there. Then the telephone, so that's both Tierney and I have work cell phones. I get pictures of plants and bugs and constant communication, with each other and with the public. And then Tierney uses her cell phone a lot for communication with 4-H families. And then we go into our vehicle expenses. So we have a new to us Ford F-150 that we inherited, and that seems to be working out really well, but that's just, funds for maintenance of that vehicle. Then we have dues, training, and travel. So that's for, professional development for both Tierney and I, and also, CSU extension meetings that we attend on campus, things like that. So kept it pretty simple this year. Does anyone have any questions for us?
No.
Pretty straightforward.
Yep. Trying my best. So I hope to see you all out at Fair this week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll be there.
Okay. Well, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. What do you have going on today? Or nothing today, right?
Oh, there's,
They have the indoor project check-in is today. So
Check-in.
that's kind of
panel
the,
set up.
yeah, pin set, yeah, Justin and I were just saying like pin set up later, things like that. So I think things don't start rocking and rolling because I think tomorrow and Justin maybe can, trying to remember, all the livestock are coming mainly tomorrow. So really Wednesday, I think, is when things kind of ramp up for the public to be able to come out and start seeing stuff. But,
So kind of check in and set up.
yep, yeah, it's the checking in and setting up fun. So, yeah, so if you want to carry some pins around, this afternoon is your moment. So, okay, we'll see you guys. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, George, Coroner.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Mine's pretty simple, so not a lot to it. Operating went up just a little bit. That was, some of it was when we were talking about, I don't even know what you'd call it, where I can gain access to medical records. So that bumped it up a little bit. Fuel, I kicked that up just a hair, just for fuel price increase. Professional services went up. Professional services, that's for my forensic pathologist and forensic anthropologist. And last couple of years, we've been doing more autopsies. I just kind of base it off the previous year. And so, and then two, with increases, we have one pathologist charges a little bit more, and the main pathologist we use, he's been same price since he's been coming for the last 8 years, but he keeps talking about kicking the price up a little bit because cost of fuel, him having to drive here. So that's where that increase came from. Deputy pay, that went up. Well, it didn't go up. I just combined my part-time help in with the deputy pay because he's no longer considered part-time. He quit the part-time and he's just going to cover occasionally. So that's where that's at. Fees went up. We went from the 3D to 3A, so that increased the dues for the year. So that's a little bit of an increase there. Any questions? No?
No,
No? Okay,
I don't.
all right.
All right, you guys have a good day.
Straightforward.
Thank you, George.
George.
All right. Emergency management. Good morning.
Morning. Gentlemen, young lady.
Good morning.
Yeah. So we met, me and my staff met with the budget committee.
You're not the only one in that same position, so
I know.
don't feel like you're being singled out.
I know.
It's
And
those split personalities.
after the discussion, of course, we decided to take out the FTE because of issues that are going on with costs, et cetera. Put it in every year. One of the things I also changed in there, even though my budget's pretty much the same, other than I did add a 5% increase, which for salaries, and then of course that affects the benefits. I started nitpicking it myself, looking at it, and I had pretty high in fuel because I thought it was going to go way up this year. So I cut it back $1,500. But then I hit submit before I decided. I wanted to take 1,000 of that and throw it into training. What we're seeing now, and you all know this, the training, travel, dues, et cetera, those costs are going up. We've got more, less government resources. We have capabilities. Sometimes they're overwhelmed. A lot of gaps. We're seeing a lot of future trends, growing populations, whether we have disabilities living within the communities, growing senior population, housing issues, lifestyles, et cetera. With that, we have a lot of, as I guess I should say, unfunded mandates, but we have a lot of planning, training that I need to go to keep abreast of everything. It includes legislation and et cetera. So this year, spent a lot of time on training the Emergency Ops Center as well, doing a lot more training, trying to build those capabilities up, lower our gaps. A lot of trends are changing, a lot of need coming from the state, because we do have the, we get grants, so I have to comply with a lot of the things that are in the grants. You all know what happened during COVID. That was like 2 years of sitting around waiting to get organized again, and that slowed down on some of the training process. Ever changing, just like everything else. Demands on our office here, stakeholder meetings, trainings, exercises, drills, et cetera. And we've been doing a lot of those lately, and I don't anticipate that slowing down. So one of my requests, I already hit submit, sorry, Phaedra. But I was thinking of trying to get out of that 1,500 savings, just put 1,000 back in to training, exercise, and dues, because dues are going up, et cetera, et cetera. As far as funding, of course, so far 2024, we've been awarded the 55,000 plus, a little bit of change there, for emergency management, and that takes care of salary, that takes care of whatever. It's whatever I submit at 55. So, so far we received 10,000 of that this year. Anticipating similar, but a 9% cut. I heard you guys talking about per capita. Our per capita for Homeland Security is $2.10. So with that, I can get 55,000. Next year, FEMA's cutting back on a lot of things, and that's all the programs. That's a lot of the grant funding that we get, and it'll be cut back 9%. So we're looking at 50,000 coming in next year. It's still there, but it is being cut along across the state through Homeland Security. Working with our grant person over here, Kim, we've been able to put together quite a bit of funding and items that are based that I'm assisting in and what we're trying to do. A lot of it's in progress, some of it's completed, et cetera, but we're looking at $697,000 worth of grants, so that's pretty good. We're bringing that in. And a lot of that's planning, funding, some equipment funding. A lot of it's not going, most of it that I'm working with is not going through our finance, it's going through the All Hazards Council, so there's no match, no money, we don't handle it. It just comes to me. So I get operational needs in there. I can get planning needs in there, radio programming, some equipment, communication towers, emergency ops center, equipment that we're trying to put together up there. So we're able to keep pretty much the same budget as I had last year, other than that addition. So.
And that's just moving it from one that you cut back to the other, so that's a simple,
Yeah.
that's a simple change.
And I don't anticipate more than 1,000, so I guess.
I'll send it back to you.
Yeah, send it back to me. I'll play with that. The buttons, yeah, I'll fix it. If that's approved, otherwise, pretty much business as usual, no disasters. A lot of emergencies, but no disasters.
How did the fire on the hill fare?
Yep, they got it out. I mean, they're mopping up some of it, but yeah. It was the next day, they worked on it pretty good. They had some ground crews up. We had support, air support for water dumps, so worked pretty good. Yeah.
It's radar over at La Plata active? Oh, jeez.
In progress, sir.
Okay.
It's been in progress for 10 years, and it is going in at the airport, and the last I heard is
I thought it was up and running.
It's almost plug and play. Now, I have not heard whether it's running yet, but
okay. That's
on my list about once every 6 months to say, so where are we? But hopefully that'll pop in pretty soon. And the National Weather Service is actually getting better. It used to be a 30,000-foot view. They actually have it down to a 17,000-foot view. So once we get the radar in, we'll have a local view. So we'll be able to catch the hailstorms and the fire and all that stuff. So just waiting on the government. Well, yeah, pretty much. Not necessarily the government, but National Weather Service, and they're not that involved in it. It's all the outside agencies that have to place that thing and get all the permissions and stuff, which they have now. We're just waiting. But yeah, I'll find out today. Yeah,
okay.
See.
Yeah.
Last time I asked, it wasn't playing yet. So.
All right.
Here's my budget. And if you want to take some money and add more to it, I'm very happy with that too.
No, I know. When you came in with the 4 FTEs, we were kind of shocked, and we sent him back so that he could have his office of one and make sure he was doing well.
There's one guy down there, but there's sure a lot of people there.
Right? And,
Yeah.
good thing I didn't enter the helicopter. The helicopter was cheap. It was the maintenance on it, yeah.
Right, right. A helicopter's cheap. You guys heard that. Thank you. Appreciate it, Jim.
Thanks, man.
No wonder he has to go through a lot of training.
GIS. Mr. Roth.
I'm pretty quick. I'll try and set a speed record here. For salaries, we just put in a 5%. Of course, that's kind of what the commissioners approved countywide here. Fringe will be dependent on what HR comes up with in the end. Telephone, it was recommended that we do, I think it was a $10 or $12 a month increase just to cover increased cost. I do have a county cell phone, and Nolan does get reimbursed so that we can use our mapping applications out in the field. For maintenance contracts, last year, our software, which is the vast majority of that $10,000, is our software that runs everything. They had not increased their prices in so long. I had just gotten used to putting the same number. Well, last year we get our invoice for that in late November, December, and lo and behold, they increased it. So I'm going to go ahead and just start putting a 5% in that just to cover our cost. I can't imagine it being more than that. For our training and travel, I did decrease that a little bit just because in the past we would attend trainings in person and they were quite expensive. What we're doing a lot of now, it's kind of continued from COVID, is that we're having a lot of our regional meetings online. The training resources that if we have time, we can attend. I mean, it's just vast what's available online for Nolan and I to increase our skill set. That's free, and a lot of that's included with the software maintenance contracts there. So primarily what we're using that for is attending one or two regional meetings. So that's just travel, hotel, keep it pretty low key there. So in the end, really the only difference that we're looking at for our budget would be that cost of living increase. Otherwise, everything else is pretty much a wash. And then lastly, I'll just say our aerial project, nothing this year because we did get the NAPE imagery. Hopefully, beginning of next year, we'll be getting the state providing imagery. And then when we discuss for budgeting next year, we may be looking at getting a partnership with the city and the municipalities to get a custom high-resolution imagery flight that we can't just get off the shelf. That would be a custom flight, and that flight is now, we try and get that every 5 years or so, so that'll be right at the 5-year mark. So that's all I got.
Question?
No.
Okay, thank you, Doug.
Thank you.
Okay, maintenance.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Brittany, can you turn your mic on?
Morning. Okay, for our permanent salaries, we have a 5% increase due to cost of living. And the overtime salary stayed the same. And our fringe benefits, Dustin put about $17.30 in there, depending on what comes back after we discuss that later with the rep. And the operating expense is the same. And same with the fuel expense is also the same. Reimbursement for telephone looks like it'll stay the same as well. And the maintenance contracts, there's a $5,000 increase, and that's the cleaning, the elevator, the pest control, water treatment, and the window washing. And the vehicle expense, a decrease about $2,500, so we're just going to keep it there for the oil changes and the miscellaneous repairs due to the new trucks and the tires for 2024. There will be one truck that will need tires in 2025. And the admin building operating decreased to 7,000, set aside for an HVAC unit scheduled for 2024. And the Annex 3 operating decreased 1,500, paint for 2024 as well. And the sheriff operating decreased 6,000. The Ford project was done in 2024. And the jail operating increased about 2,000 for a water heater for the laundry. And transportation operating decreased 1,000 for the floor project. And combined court operating increased 5,000 for the card readers, the mortise lock, and the accessible door opener failure. And admin utilities about the same. And the Annex 1 utilities decreased 28,000 for the solar lease payment coming out of the capital account. And the Annex 3 utilities increased 2,000. We went over a little bit last year's budget, and that was just for use and costs of increase. And the sheriff and jail utilities increased about 2,000, went a little over from last year's budget as well. And the combined court utilities will stay the same.
What was the biggest increase on that? Was it water, sewer, or both?
Which one? The jail?
Well,
or
all of them went
for all
up
of
just a
them?
little bit, but were most of those water, sewer
Yes,
rates?
I believe so.
Okay.
This is a difficult question, but what kind of water usage is out at the jail and sheriff's office? Is it quite a bit?
I don't have those notes on me, but I can pull those up.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't have them.
Because I know they went to a tiered system. You use a certain amount of water and it's more and more and more.
Okay.
But they readjusted those
They changed.
and effective July 1. So it's going to go back to the old rate. So there'd be like a month or two in there where you pay the higher rate and then it's going to go back.
Go down.
Yeah. And I think the jail and the sheriff's office would probably be the most affected.
Okay, I can look into that and see what we have for that. Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
Nope.
No? Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you, Brittany. Fairgrounds, Dustin.
All right, so our overall is not all that different from last year. Salaries, we did put 5% for that and the benefits to kind of help adjust for cost of living and what those benefits might go up to. As far as where those salaries come out of, 100% of the 2 employees and 75% of mine would come out of the Conservation Trust Fund. And then 25% of my salary would come out of that general fund salary line. Same thing with benefits. Our operating expenses, I did increase a little bit, 4,000 on our general fund line, and I increased it a little bit on our conservation line, I believe 2,000, and that was to help cover insurances that we now have to pay, basically, since we kind of have to put our vehicle insurance and our equipment insurance and stuff like that in our actual budget, having to cover that. So that's the reason for those increases. Fuel, I did increase just a little bit. We did go over some last year. This year I do anticipate going over our current budget, so I did add a little bit to it for this year. Going forward, the public utilities Since we did the solar out there now, we will be a little cheaper on our electricity costs. Right now, our electric costs have been probably right around $22,000 a year. I can drop those down about $5,000, you know, on the plan that we're on. That is something we can look at here in the next couple of months, though. We might be able to get on a different plan for our electric and maybe even drop that down a little bit more. I did want to kind of go through a few months, and since we do got the fair going on right now where it's going to put a high demand on that building, kind of see what that does first, and then see if it's beneficial for us to actually drop down to maybe a different plan than what we're on. The other thing that I did change is the dues, the training and travel. There is a couple opportunities each year for me to go to other facilities and do some training with other fairgrounds, so I did add $1,000 into that. And then the only other line item that really got changed was we put some money in there for the EOC meeting rooms out of conservation trust funds. There's an opportunity with some funding from emergency management on upgrading our meeting rooms at the fairgrounds to make those kind of a dual purpose EOC, better training room, possible BOCC if we needed one. And then I just put what would be a match amount for any grants that we might get on that. And other than that, any questions?
No, I will just highlight for the other two commissioners, because of the CTF, the Conservation Trust Funds, that, which I don't really see the capital right here right now.
I think it's
But
under CTF.
We did talk to Justin about getting some costs put together for the fairgrounds
Because
outside
it's gonna be
on
this
the
one,
sidewalks.
but it was already
And
went
specifically
over, but that
working
has to
on the
be
north
edited.
and the
It's just
east
gonna be
side for
that
those
general capital.
ADA.
It's the 30,000.
Yeah.
This name, yeah.
Sidewalk
How do you
and
change
ramps, that kind of gets us,
Yeah.
because we have a year, obviously, as we all know, that all of the ADA stuff that we're gonna have to deal with, we got that extension of a year. So I know that he's probably working on that as far as getting some costs put together so that we can go out to bid on that.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about in our previous meeting was go ahead and trying to get those revamped out there with some of those funds. So hopefully here soon we'll be able to get something out.
Yeah, we also did talk about, just for your references too, on the north side, since that's kind of the main
Access.
place for access of, if we replace that concrete sidewalk up there, then putting ice melt in that so that they don't have to do so much shoveling, because that ice gets pretty thick out there, and we do actually have some people going in and out of that, because if we're going to replace it, it wouldn't take much to add that ice melt in that concrete. So
That is a problem area for us in the wintertime, especially with the snow and it staying shaded all the time. So if we were able to do something in that area, it would be.
And again, that would all be CTF.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Pretty straightforward.
All right. Thanks, Justin.
All right, thank you guys.
Mel.
Okay, ours is pretty straightforward, not much changes. The income changed a little bit due to the price increase. Recycling credits, that's kind of that's hard to project that. That all depends on what the commodities are doing throughout the year, but I didn't see much change in that one. Salaries, we did put a cost of living increase for the salaries and the fringe benefits. Operating expense, about the same. Fuel, should be fairly close to the same. I don't think we're gonna use what I've put in here because I don't have anything planned for construction or anything next year. We shouldn't need to do any construction for quite a few years. And when we do the household hazardous waste, there's no construction in that. We're just gonna buy some sea containers, but that's gonna be a year or two down the road after we get the permits for that.
Real quick, Mel, you indicated that there was no change in your operating, but it did go up 75,980. So it's showing a $50,000 for
That's shredder rent.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the shredder rent.
I just wanted to clarify
Okay,
that, so.
yeah. That's gonna be pretty consistent for the next couple of years unless we can get a grant to get a shredder.
We were denied that last grant,
We've been
right?
denied it twice for the shredder.
For the shredder.
Yep.
Do you know why? Did they ever give you an explanation?
I think they had who they wanted picked out already on the grants. That was a lot of money. It's about 1.1, wasn't it, Robert? 1.1?
Yeah, it was about 1.1, I think. It was certainly on the large side of that grant, so I think they ended up funding more smaller grants.
Mm-hmm. Out of that. We've tried twice. We'll continue to try when they come up with the big grants. And when the small grants come out, we'll try again. We want to still try and get a bagger for the compost. We do have our permit now for the Carver Field, so hopefully we'll start the food waste. I'll be working with the city on that, start collecting the food waste. Fuel about the same. Professional services, this is going to be, I don't know how to project this. A lot of this is going to be, if you look on their Weaver Consultants Group, so that's our engineering consulting firm that we use to keep the landfill in compliance and do all our engineering. That may change depending on the regulations and requirements coming down from CDPHE. There's more air quality coming down, more water quality coming down, more reports that they have to fill out and file with the state. So I don't know that we'll use all that. We may exceed that a little bit. As far as the rest of the professional services, the CDPHE and stuff like that should all be pretty much the same. Telephones, I don't think that changed much. Insurance and bonds didn't change. Public utilities are about the same. Repairs and maintenance, we're getting hit with a lot of repairs right now, so hopefully everything's fixed for next year. Didn't see a whole lot of change in that. Dues, training, and travel, I didn't change. All the crew except for myself are up and current on their requirements for their certifications. We did take advantage of a composting school that was fairly local and sent a guy to that already this year, so that we should be plenty fine for that. The capital outlay is for a new loader. We have to replace one of the loaders, the 924G. It's just flat wore out. The cost I put in there is for a one-time purchase. We're going to look into the lease option when we get ready to do this, so that obviously will change. The loan payment I put in there, don't know that we're going to need the loan. If we do, and it may not be the amount we discussed, so I don't know whether we're going to even need that or not.
Pardon me. Bless you.
No construction plan for next year, and the CPC, the closure, post-closure, stays the same.
Okay.
So it
Question?
basically depends on whether, what the state does on our requirements with professional services and the leased option versus buying a loader will vary. So,
Few variables.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, very good. Thank you, Mel.
Bet.
Appreciate it. And last but not least, planning. Somehow I skipped you, or you weren't in here. I didn't see you.
I'm pretty sure you saved best for last.
All right, planning, and that is all that we have.
I'd like to welcome Attorney Grubbs and Clerk Dobry. So basically, all we have is the cost of living increase and associated fringe benefits on labor. We did increase operating expenses by $500, and we took that out of our dues, travel, and fees line item. So that zeroes that out. Last year, operating budget was reduced by 1,000, which we could cover that this year, but we'll put $500 back in there. We may go ahead and do our flyers on the land use code that went out with the property taxes notices, and that ran us about $500. We did get some response initially, but nothing's really come through after that. But I think it's been more word of mouth after people that did get them, read them, and paid attention, and then they share with their neighbor when their neighbor's doing stuff that they better call. So I think it helped. And we may want to go to every other year versus every year, but just with the big influx of people, it can't hurt to get them on the right page.
Question?
No.
Pretty straightforward. All right. Thank you.
Short
Bill.
and sweet,
Thank
and
you.
on a
Short
good
and
note, I guess. Till tomorrow.
Till tomorrow.
Yep.
Till tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow.
There's always tomorrow. All right, appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, now that you've seen everybody's presentation in public, we'll go back through now and kind of show the comparisons. Phaedra, if you want to look at them all, and then we also have, if you looked at that, there are increases anywhere from 3%, 4%, and 5% for COLAs. We can look at the revenues, expenditures, comparisons, and then we can decide for sure which way we want to go on that, and then anything else. So if you want to start with the comparisons, or
Oh, I don't,
You don't have
because they
those?
just gave them.
Okay.
And so now I'll go back and put all what they're asking for.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then we can also look at the revenues at that point
And then
in time.
we have some that are in question.
Okay,
I'll have to send back to them. They'll have to update.
right.
Yeah.
Travis, anything?
No, sir.
Robert?
No, sir.
Nothing, Phaedra? Okay.
No.
Questions, gentlemen?
You know, as we were going through, I was looking at the 23 budget proposals, and a lot of them are down. Some of them are up quite a bit, but some of them are even below 23 budget proposals. So,
Well, a lot of
I
it-
want to
what-
say the total one I just went through was 15.5 for
Yeah.
expenses. But, no, that's revenue, I'm sorry, but the asks were 17.
yeah.
So a lot of what we were looking at is at least the last 3 years and typically 5 years of comparisons for expenses, for
Mhm.
actuals.
We're close to
Or-
being flat.
To become,
Right.
to really look at each line item in each department to say, well, we haven't looked at that, we haven't used that for the last 5 years, and it gave us a pretty good history, specifically from 19 and through COVID, of what we were and what we're not doing. So it's going to give us some pretty realistic numbers. Okay. Well, with that, if we don't have anything else, then I guess we will not be back at 1300 for a restart. We will be done, and we are actually adjourned for this meeting. Thank you all.